I've got Matt, the dog trainer, here today, and we're going to be discussing some practical tips and some behavioural challenges that you may have had and you've asked me about on Instagram. So one of the challenges that a lot of pet owners face is handling or actually getting their pet to the vet.
Yeah.
So do you have any suggestions or any practical advice on how to manage those situations?
Absolutely. I think it's actually something that's not really taught in dog training classes, believe it or not. If you go to puppy school or you go and take some obedience classes, it's something that's not really discussed is how to bring your dog into a vet, and it's something that needs to happen at least once a year for your general vaccinations. So I think it's a great question that people are asking. Where I would start off with is maybe even bouncing the question to you first. As a vet, what do you need to do and what do you need to be able to check when a dog comes in or a cat comes in? I mean, I'm a dog trainer, not a cat trainer, but I'm sure the same things can apply.
So I think generally we like to do a full clinical examination, and we need to be able to do that in a safe way. So some of the issues that we have is, for example, people don't like having their pets muzzled. They do not like the idea of it. They're very adverse to it. They take it quite personally. So I think that's probably one of the first challenges is safe handling for all people involved, owners as well as the people examining the pets.
Okay, cool. So one is the muzzle, to get a muzzle on. What else happens in the examination? What parts of the dog do you touch?
So we do a full clinical examination, starting from nose, generally quite systematically through the whole body system, even to the point of having to take a temperature. So these are obviously things that owners are not doing at home, or touching or handling at home. So
yeah, and that's what I was going to say is one of the first thing to even prep before we even take the consideration of coming to the vet, of getting into the car and so on. What we really have to think about is the end product and what's happening in the vet clinic, right? And what we need our dogs to be able to do is be comfortable and confident when the vet is handling them. So number one is getting on a muzzle. You don't always need a muzzle on every single dog, but if your vet is asking you to put a muzzle on, it's got nothing to really do with whether they think the dog is badly behaved or a reflection on the owner. I think a lot of people take it personally of like, why is the vet asking me to put this muzzle on? And it's got nothing to do with that. It's about keeping the vet safe and the rest of the staff safe and other dogs and animals in the practice.
And if I can interject, one of the things I find after putting on a muzzle, everybody calms down. So often allows us to restrain them sort of with less sort of aggression and it makes these dogs calmer because we calm down thinking, if I'm going to have to examine their eyes or look in their ears, especially if they're painful, they're not going to react and potentially try and bite us. So
exactly, you might have the most cool, calm, collected dog, but the minute they're in pain and you touch them incorrectly, they could turn around and snap. And that also gives the owner peace of mind that their dog isn't going to hurt their vet, and it gives the vet the peace of mind to be able to do a full examination. So what I would suggest at home, and this is something that I do with my young puppies, but you can really do it with a dog at any age, is getting them familiar with a muzzle. Well, my dogs generally, when I bring them to the vet, don't need a muzzle, but I had a case with one of my border collies, and she, we actually don't know how she did it, but she managed to slice off the tip of her tail. And anyway, she had the surgery done, and anyway, we had the cone of shame and the blow-up thing. And it turned out, we didn't really think about it, but the tail is one part they can still reach, even with the cone on, right? And so eventually, she actually had to spend 3 weeks whilst the stitches were, because she pulled them out and we had to do it again, with the muzzle on, right? So even when she was to the point of sleeping, she had to have the muzzle on because she was pulling the stitches out. So being able to train your dog to like the muzzle from a young age is really helpful. It's not just about aggression, right? It's how you can use it to manage a specific problem. So what I usually do is what we call counter conditioning or conditioning, and that's what it's really doing is associating a positive reward or a positive outcome with the muzzle going on. So I wouldn't even necessarily right away, unless your dog is completely comfortable with it, I would first let your dog, you'll take the muzzle and put it on your dog's nose and then give them a treat and take it off and then give your dog the treat, right? And you'd repeat that a couple of times. And the next time you'll maybe actually put the clip on and then take it off immediately and then reward. And then you start building up the duration, and that generally leaves them pretty relaxed and chilled. The next part I would also look at doing is creating a positive association with your dog being handled. So things like your dog, at home, you can go and touch your dog's ears and touch their mouth, and each time you do that, give them a reward. So obviously you need to gauge their stress levels. Don't go touching their ears, and you can see that they're very uncomfortable with it.
And this is so critical, sorry to interrupt,
of course.
but we find that most owners don't think about touching feet, but then when it comes to them coming into the practice and they need a nail clip, suddenly this feels foreign, and it's stressful, and then you have a nail clip and it actually sets up a behavior that then becomes worse and worse over time. Whereas owners that are constantly touching their cat or dog's feet all the time, and ears, and looking in their mouth, can make such a difference to a clinical examination.
Yeah, and when dogs don't have that, or cats even don't have that positive association at home, and you bring them to the vet, they're going to associate all of that stuff with coming to the vet. So each time they come to the vet, it's going to become worse and worse and worse, to the point where the minute they're at the door, they start salivating and stressing out, and you have to drag them inside, right? And this is a way to get around that, is by creating that positive association of checking the teeth, playing with the ears. And a prime one is also being able to hold your dog's head. So like when the vet is giving the injection for the vaccines or whatever, is, what often happens is, if a dog isn't handled, they're like trying to switch around and look, and like, why is the person now holding my head? So when a dog gets handled by just an owner holding their head and then getting rewarded, it's a fantastic way of building that association. So those are the steps that need to be done at home before you even consider coming. Well, I mean, if you need to come to the vet, you come to the vet. You know what I mean? But if you want to create a positive association, you do all of that at home. You don't want to start dog training at the vet. Yeah.
No, I like that. I mean, we even have situations where we ask the owner whether they'd like to leave the room because then their pets behave differently. And also then if we can handle them in the correct way, then like you say, it's a positive experience, and the next time they behave better and better. Whereas if they have a bad time with their owners, not only are they stressed, it sets up a cycle of future vet visits that are quite unpleasant.
Exactly. And I think then beyond that is, if you've got a small dog, you want to get them used to being handled in a specific way. So if you like working with a small dog and you're getting the injections done, let them get used to the hold. So if you hold them against your body, that's okay, but your dog needs to be used to it. The problem is when people do that and the dog's not used to it, now the dog is freaking out because it's never been squished like that before, right?
And the one thing you don't want is an injection into yourself.
Into yourself, because the vet misses, right? Exactly. Pulling your leg. But you get the idea, right? And what you want to do is be able to practice that
assistance.
That assistance, that the dog gets used to being handled in such a way. You always need to have a firm grip on your dog, so it must be gentle, but it needs to be firm. So your dog needs to be used to getting handled like that when they come into the vet, that you are going to hold on to them tightly. And it doesn't mean that it's wrong or that there's anything bad, but it is for the safety of the vet. Doesn't want to get hurt by the needle, neither do you, and you don't want the dog to be lashing around when getting
and you want it to be one hit. You don't want multiple injections.
Absolutely. So yeah, that would be my core tips of getting ready to come to a practice. And if you've got a dog that's got some behavioral issues and you know that up front, tell your vet ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Tell the veterinary staff, and they'll make a plan. They'll make sure that there isn't cats and 5 other dogs like in the walkway as you're coming in. And it's, and I think everyone needs their dogs to be able to come to a vet. If you do have some behavioral problems, it's not a reflection on you. It is what it is. And you just speak to the team, and the team will help you out.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we certainly have quite a few of our clients phone and say, I'm coming in, can you be aware? And they come straight into a consult room rather than sitting down and getting themselves some more worked up. So that's great advice.
Yeah.
I like that. Great, thank you so much for that.
Of course.
We appreciate the advice. And if you'd like any more information, please feel free to reach out, and we're very happy to help.